So you've been playing guitar for a while, and now you want to take it to the next level. You've learned your pentatonics, you've learned your open chords, and now you're thinking, okay, I can do all of that, but how do I unlock the fretboard? How do I play chords across the neck? And how do I play cool stuff like these Instagram jazzy guitarists? So you ask Google, and Google's like, bro, just learn the CAGED system. You're like, big sparkles down, editing here. So you learn the CAGED system, and now you can play a C chord like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. Now you feel like the best guitarist in the world because you can play chords across the neck and you've unlocked the fretboard. Anyways, just as fate would have it, the love of your life has just messaged you and she says, yo, do you want to come, or he says, do you want to come to this open mic music event? You know, it'll be quite cool. So you're like, hell yeah, let's go. She doesn't know you play guitar, or he. So you go to the event and there's a guitar there. And you're like, I know how to play guitar. She's like, can you? Or he. So you go on stage, you get the guitar, and you strum that first chord. That C chord you learned in the CAGED system. Everyone's like, okay, this guy can play. Oh, you play that second chord. So now they're thinking you're going to do something cool, but you play the next chord. Then the next. Then the next. Then the next. You just played the CAGED system and you're like, yeah, man. They're like, okay, what comes next? And after that performance, you're basically in the friend zone, bro. So then it's my turn to play. I go on stage and I'm like, and after that, you're not even in the friend zone anymore. You're just like, you're gone. So in this lesson, what I'm gonna do is teach you guys the CAGED system in like less than 5-6 minutes. I'll try and do it as fast as I can. Then after that, I'm gonna highlight why the CAGED system sucks, why it's flawed. I mean, it's good to have different perspectives on the guitar, but I'm gonna show you what you should be learning instead after that, because my system's way better. And my system ain't even a system, bro. It's literally just guitar. It's how guitar works. There's no need for a system. You just need to understand how the instrument works. So, yeah, let's get into it. I should like put an intro here, some theme song. Okay, that was the introduction. Let's go into the CAGED system. So what is the CAGED system? Basically, you need to know 5 open chord shapes. These shapes are C, A, G, E, and D. We know C shape is this, an A shape is this, a G shape is this, an E shape is this, and a D shape is this. Cool. When you know these 5 shapes, all you have to do is learn how to link them together. And the easiest way to do this is with a C chord. You can do it with any of these shapes, but I'll just do it with a C chord today. So now we've got our C chord. All we have to do is figure out how to play the next shape in the CAGED system with the C chord. And it's very simple. You want to find the root note or the octave of the chord you're on, and that's going to be where your third finger is at. So third fret of the A string. And then let's take our A shape that normally looks like this, and I'll put an imaginary bar here with my first finger, and then move it up to the 3rd fret of the A string. So now you've got this going. So this will be a C chord as well, but you're doing it with an A shape. Right? So we had our C open chord, then we went to the 3rd fret and did this A shape. So after that, you want to find the octave. That would be the 5th fret of the G string. And you can do this in 2 ways. I'll give you guys a nice and easy way. But bar the D and G string with your first finger on the 5th fret. Then put your 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the A string. And then your pinky on the 8th fret of the E string. And you can play these 4 strings. This will be the G shape. But if you want it to look more like a G, then do this. I'll put the chord chart here. This one's a bit harder to play and it's very awkward, but it's possible. You'll just add your pinky to the 8th fret of the high E string. So now that looks like a G chord or G shape. Then after that, find the next octave or root note. Let's say the 8th fret of the low E string. And the next layer in CAGED is an E, so we'll do an E shape from here. Right, we've taken our E shape that looks like this down here. And then we move it to the 8th fret. The next layer in CAGED is D, so after our E shape, we play a D shape. Find the next octave, that's going to be the 10th fret of the D string. Put your first finger there. And then you'll do a D shape. So middle finger on the 12th fret of the G string, pinky on the 13th fret of the B string, and then 3rd finger on the 12th fret of the high E string. And that's the next shape in CAGED. Shall I lift my guitar up a bit more? Cool. So after that, it's just the C shape again, because there's no layer after D in CAGED. So you'll find the next octave, let's say where your pinky is, the 13th fret of the B string. And from there, you'll do a C shape. And here's the diagram. My pinky's on the 15th fret of the A string. My 3rd finger's on the 14th fret of the D string. My 2nd finger's on the 13th fret of the B string. And then my 1st finger's barring the 12th fret. And there you go, a C shape again. So that's all the CAGED system is. You've got 5 chord shapes, C, A, G, E, D, open chord shapes. And then what you're doing after that is linking them together across the neck so that you can play the same chord in different places. What I'll do is pause the video here and just like put the diagrams out one by one so you can see what I'm on about, and yeah, we'll get into the next part. But you can do this with any chord. If you're starting with an A major chord, then the next layer in CAGED is G, so you'll find the octave in the A chord and then play a G shape. Then the next octave, play an E shape, and so on. If you're playing a D chord, the next layer in CAGED would be C. So you play a C shape from that octave. Or, you know, if you're playing a G chord, the next layer in CAGED is E. After G is E, so you play an E shape from its root note. And so on. That's how CAGED works. But the flaw is this. Let's try and do the same thing with minor chords. So C looks like this. Now we have to do a C minor open chord. When was the last time you learned a C minor open chord? Oh wait. If we had to, it looks something like this. Which is possible, but it's very awkward to play. And you can't play any of the E strings. So that'll be our first shape. The next layer is CAGED is A, but we'll turn it into A minor. So from its octave on the 3rd fret of the low A string, I can need to stop saying low A string, you do an A minor shape. Right, something that looks like this. Then the next layer in CAGED is G, and bruv, to turn this into a G minor open chord, you know, even my software don't even know what to put, but I don't even know how I'm gonna play it though. But it looks something like this. You can do it like this way. You put your pinky on the A fret of the low E string, middle finger on the 6th fret of the A string, first finger on the 5th fret of the D string, and then, you know, bar the D and D string 5th fret. But one could argue that that's just like a C minor shape, innit? So, you know, it's not really a G minor shape. But if you wanted to turn into a G minor shape, you gotta do something like that. But it's a really awkward shape to do, so it's not really possible. Anyways, we'll move on. From the 8th fret of the low E string, we'll do an E minor shape, which is quite easy. And then after that, we've got D minor shape, which is doable. Then after that, we've got C minor shape, which is, again, awkward. Then you'd have to add like this note in to get the flat 3. But that's very awkward to play. So CAGED works nicely with major chords, but with minor chords, it kind of falls apart. And then like you got all these different voicings that you can add to your chords in it. So it's like, okay, what do we do there? Thankfully, I've got the solution. That is intervals. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, then you know I'm big on intervals because that is literally how music works. It's how you build your chords, it's how you build your scales. And if you understand how intervals work, then you won't be at the mercy of the CAGED system, this system, the 3-2 system, that system, this little trick that will help you unlock the fretboard, or this little pattern that will help you navigate the fret. You won't have to watch all of that, man, because you understand how things work and you can bypass all of the jargon that's out there. Now, with the CAGED system, the problem is this. You learn shapes, but you don't learn music. If I take our open C chord, if I asked you to play the 3, would you know what I'm talking about? If I asked you to play the 5, would you know what I'm talking about? For most people, they see the CAGED system like this, right? You know the shapes, but you don't know how they're built or, you know, how the notes interact with each other. If I show you this now, this is how you build a C chord. Well, a major chord is just 1, 3, 5. Remember that. A major chord is just 1, 3, and 5. With the C chord we've got here, we've got 1, 3, 5. So that's a C. But on top of that, we've got 1. And then on top of that, we've got another 3. So we're still playing a combination of 1, 3, and 5. We just added some extra notes. The next chord, the A shape, we've got 1, 5, 1, 3, 5. Again, we've got 1, 3, 5, but we're playing them in some sort of combination. The G shape, we've got 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 1. The E shape, we've got 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1. The D shape, we've got 1, 5, 1, 3. Now the thing that all these chords have in common is they're playing a combination of 1, 3, 5. And the reason I don't like the CAGED system personally is 1, it puts you in a cage, and 2, even though you're playing different shapes, you're still playing the same sound. And that's not interesting or cool at all. Because even though I'm playing this chord, C shape open chord, and I go to A shape, then G shape, I'm still playing the same type of color because they're all combinations of 1, 3, and 5. And to me, that sucks, bro. Like, it's like having a canvas in front of you and you're just painting with a gray paint. Why? You know, if you understand that, there's more numbers out there, you're not stuck doing 1, 3, 5. You can do 9s, 7s. You know, you can start adding all in. You know, you can add all these different types of chords, and I'm still playing a C chord. I'm just adding more colors in, right? And that's the power of intervals. You're not stuck doing, you know, these shapes or that shapes. If you know where your numbers are, then can just... It's beautiful. I can just pull random shapes out of my bum cheeks and it'll sound good, bro. But if someone's stuck with cage, you're just playing 1-3-5 across the neck. You know, and imagine you're soloing now. If you know your numbers, then cage isn't that interesting because you know someone's just playing 1-3-5, and yeah, it's just painting with one color, bro. The second thing I'd like to say is, even with cage, right, you've got missing patches. Let's say I want to go here or here or here or here or here on the diagram. It's not covered, right? It only unlocks part of the fretboard, let's say, but you still won't have access to everything because you don't know what goes in these other places. But if you understand how the fretboard works, and I'll take an excerpt from my ebook, link in description. I do mention this. If you understand how the fretboard works, then you know where 6 is, you know where 7 is, you know where all your other options are. So you're not stuck, you know, within that little framework of cage, but you've got all of this available to you. And if you know where 1-3-5 is, then, you know, you could build C chords anywhere. You could do 3-5-1, 5-5-1, anything, as long as there's a combination of 1, 3, and 5. Another thing is, it slows down your fretboard mastery, I'll say, because you're stuck playing shapes, and I've already mentioned that, but you're not really learning how the notes interact with each other, and you won't know how to flow across the fretboard without that shape. You're stuck within that system. But if you know how your intervals work, then it's like, okay, I've got C chord. You can just go from here to here to here to here to here, and you can have fun with it, right? I really like that. What's that? Let me not get carried away, but you get what I'm saying. You can flow everywhere. You don't have to worry about these missing patches, but you can use these intervals to kind of know where you're going, so you can go anywhere you want and have true fretboard freedom. That's the name of my ebook, by the way. Lastly, it forces you to think about letters rather than sounds. So we've got a C shape, that's our first letter. Then we've got A shape, that's our next letter. Then we've got G shape, and so on. You don't want to think like this because, as I said, if you think like this, then you're painting with one color. If you understand how intervals work, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, then you can start adding in different colors. We know a C chord's 1-3-5. A C major 7 chord is 1-3-5-7. Different color. This is a C chord. C major 7. C major 9. C major 11. You know. You can start adding all these different colors out of nowhere, and it gets even better when you start learning inversions and all of that, but that's another topic. So yeah, don't learn these letters and shapes and systems and whatnot. Focus on learning intervals, how they work, and how you can use them to make any chord or scale from scratch. If you haven't watched this video, then watch it. My ebook's in the description. I go through that, and I run lessons called Guitar Alchemy. This basically is to get your fretboard to look like this, and I hope that doesn't intimidate you. The end goal for everyone is for your fretboard to look like this, so you can build chords out of anywhere, build scales out of anywhere, and just have fun with it, right? You'll understand how chords work with scales, and you can just jam and do your own thing. That's me making up some random stuff on the spot. So yeah, if you're interested in lessons, then the link's in description. Don't waste your time learning all these other systems until you've learned how intervals work, and then put everything on top of that and you'll learn things 10 times faster. If there's any questions, let me know in the description, and I'll see you in the next video.